Welcome. Oh, welcome back to the episode that me and Trevor have been trying our hardest to keep out of the other two episodes.
We've not been trying very hard.
Yeah, I know, but
It was practically all of last episode.
yeah.
It's okay. Honestly, it just opens up for more discourse for today. But hey, still May, still Star Wars month. If you've been following along the pattern we've been taking, 2 weeks ago, we began by talking about the prequel trilogy. Last week, we
was
talked about,
supposed to be the original trilogy.
and for the most part, it was. We just had to, our discussion about it. We couldn't talk about it properly without talking about
Bad examples.
today the sequel trilogy, which I will say, I don't think everything that we're going to say today will be bad.
No, there's stuff
Because,
that I like.
Obviously not to be like I'm different. I like the prequels. I don't like the sequel trilogy very much. But if you do catch me watching them, you can question why, but then I'll definitely have a reason for you.
Yeah. Well, and like I said last week, there's certain elements where if they're present and they happen, then I go, okay, it's not a completely redeemable quality, but it makes it a little more enjoyable. So there is definitely stuff in there. How much I cannot say because I hate the sequels. I loathe. What's that scene from The Grinch?
I hate them. I hate Christmas. I hate it. Chuck's a Christmas tree. Oh, you're talking about that one?
Yeah. Hate. Loathe.
Yeah. Jury duty, black now. Eviction notice.
I feel like I was there.
The sequel trilogy.
Well, should we keep the same format? What don't you like?
Well, what if we flipped it and talked about what we did like?
Okay. I'm going to need a second. Do you have something loaded up?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Trevor, what do you like?
These movies are beautiful.
Okay.
Even now, and as media's progressed now, I still think that this Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker have some of the best cinematography in just film. Obviously, I know that 80% of it isn't real.
Yeah.
But shout out to the VFX.
Yeah, they do a good job at
supervisor
convincing you that it is.
Yeah, all the artists that went into those, they don't deserve any of the hate that is given.
No.
For the sequel trilogy.
No.
Those movies are
solely Kathleen Kennedy.
And even then, she has her redeemable qualities. Truthfully, I know that it's the basic online opinion of sequel trilogies are awful. Sequel trilogy isn't canon. Kathleen Kennedy should be fired. Kathleen Kennedy, blah blah blah. But to talk about Kathleen Kennedy, not to play devil's advocate or anything, but when she was an executive producer at Lucasfilm, she was phenomenal. She was an executive producer on Jurassic Park and just Indiana Jones, that era of George Lucas and Steven Spielberg just busting off of each other was great. But my favorite part of the 80s was when Steven Spielberg and George Lucas got together and just busted all over the place. Summers were a killer time. What a time to be alive. I wish I could have been there. They got together at that beach in Hawaii making sand castles and saying, it's blockbusting time. And then they made Indiana Jones.
Whoa.
But anyway, like I was saying,
Before we got to blockbusting.
Kathleen Kennedy's role as like executive like businesswoman, I guess not phrased like that, but as like the president of Lucasfilm. Honestly, I do think about this. Like,
Keeps you up at night.
If Disney hadn't purchased Star Wars, or if George Lucas hadn't sold it, I truly think that Star Wars probably would have died off.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been a beloved franchise that people would have been like, oh, I wish we could have more Star Wars.
Yeah,
So like, I'm grateful Disney bought it.
absolutely.
Disney's done good stuff. They've
Mhm.
done good things with the Star Wars
Well,
label.
if
and with Lucasfilm.
If I may just add in here, Disney, in my mind, Disney has done really, really well with Star Wars post sequel trilogy, right? Like they came out with like the sequel trilogy, and then they came out with Rogue One and Solo, and out of all of those, they only had a hit really on like 1.5, because people really liked The Force Awakens until like the honeymoon period got over, and then they were like, this is not that good.
It was honestly like that with all three of them.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember.
I don't remember anybody liking The Last Jedi.
I did. I
Really?
went and I saw that with my sister, like the Thursday night showing.
Mm-hmm.
I went and saw that. And like, partly because of how beautiful it was, and because it was just Star Wars and it was the opening night, and I was just excited to go see a new Star Wars project. And like, again, to talk about what Disney's done well, marketing. Every trailer for those movies makes you feel like, wow, this is going to be a beautiful project that
Yeah,
I cannot wait to witness.
I would
But
agree.
I remember walking out of that theater and saying to my sister, like, that might be my new favorite Star Wars film. Second watch around and like actually like taking it in and thinking about what all of it meant in the grand scheme of the Skywalker saga, I was like, I don't know about this anymore. And then watching it again and taking in like more from myself, and then finally opening myself up to like the thoughts of others, then it became like really cemented. Like, yeah, this movie's not
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
It is not good. And then
Mhm.
I watched Rise of Skywalker Thursday night showing. Like, I got out of the theater at like 2 a.m. and like no one on the road. I'm just blasting Star Wars music on the way home. I'm just thinking about what I just watched. I was like, that was awesome. That was so cool. I love Star Wars. And then watching it again, and I'm like, this is just like the script, 1 page, fan service.
Yeah,
That was it.
yeah.
Like,
I think that I have only seen the sequel trilogy once through. Like, I was on my mission during the Rise of Skywalker, so I didn't get to watch that until I got home. That one, I didn't actually think that one was too terrible. That one has its quirks, but I'm gonna go down a rabbit hole here, but I just have to. Like, you really kind of shoot yourself in the foot when you have not one director directing a trilogy, right? Because you have one director who has, okay, this is where our story's going to go, right? And then you have another one comes in and he's like, no, I think it is interpreted this way. And then you go back to him again, right? Like the original one. It just kind of like, I don't know. When you watch the sequel trilogy, you can tell that there's the J.J. Abrams movies, right? And that style. And then you can definitely tell, like when you watch The Last Jedi, you're like, this is different than the other two. So I think that the Rise of, like I've always said that the Rise of Skywalker in my mind was always something that, like, it really was dead on impact, right? Like dead on arrival.
mm-hmm.
And J.J. Abrams just kind of had to like scrape together because he introduced so many cool characters. And then Rian Johnson kind of like, and that movie, granted, I know that it's not all just Rian Johnson, right? But like everyone in charge of the story for The Last Jedi took all the potential load up and then just killed it all, right? So you can see where, like, when you're watching The Rise of Skywalker, where you're like, this feels awkward because probably what they originally had planned isn't there anymore, right?
Yeah.
Which is why I think that we got the somehow power. I can't in good faith think like and believe that the entire time, like from the first movie, that they were like somehow Palpatine returned. Like I genuinely think that Snoke was set up to be the next emperor, and then like so much like headbutting went on and they killed him off that when the third movie came around, they're like, well, we need something, right? We can't just have Kylo Ren, right? We have to have that like overwhelming shadowy force. The only thing that we can think of is zombie Palpatine,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, to keep like going off of what you were saying, like an analogy that I'd like to think of with the sequel trilogy is like the thought, like if you get put in a forest just by yourself and you try to walk in a straight line with nothing to guide you, you'll end up walking in circles.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is what happened
Yeah.
with right off to the bat with Force Awakens. I think it's a combination of two major factors. Very poor writing
Mm-hmm.
and the fans.
Mm-hmm.
Because everyone, like a very general consensus among most people, is that The Force Awakens is the best of the three.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't tell you all the reasons why it's the best of all the three, mostly because it it puts you on a path that you thought could go somewhere good and
Yeah.
continue the story in
Yeah.
a way you'd like. But I think because they chose to do it in a way that didn't make a ton of sense in a trilogy full of ambiguous exposition with no explanation, you don't get any exposition as to
Well,
where the First Order really came from.
And especially because you've already finished the storyline by the time the sequels come around, right? Like we've talked about before that George Lucas's original idea was that the sequel trilogy was supposed to be Maul and the crime syndicate, right? And like basically mafia wars, right? Which makes sense because that would mean that the Skywalker saga concludes with the death of Anakin / Darth Vader, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when Disney came in and made the sequel trilogy, they kind of took that and went, right? They just threw it away. So I think that also they kind of doomed themselves from the start because then they were like, okay, well, now we have to undo. We're basically going to undo everything that Star Wars has already set up, like explained the story and then finished. We have to throw all that away because we're just going to start over, right? And obviously, I think we do have to mention, like, we'll get more into it, but we do have to mention, like, the shows of, like, the Disney Plus shows have been doing an amazing job at trying to fill the gaps that the sequel, like, the gaps and questions that, like, not gaps, but the holes in the storyline that the sequel trilogy brought up, right? But even when you're watching the shows and their attempts to, like, scavenge what was left at the time of Star Wars and to like piece it into one like actual, holdable object that you can say Star Wars. Like even then they still like you can see where they're struggling to connect the dots, right?
Yeah. I mean,
It's there, but because we haven't got to the First Order yet, you're like, these shows are great because they're just continuing this original storyline. I don't know how it turns into this, right? Because currently it's going down. Does that make sense?
yeah. I don't think words.
I just don't think either.
They didn't. I don't think they prepared enough.
Mm-mm.
I think they should have. I don't know who they had in their pre-screenings for the film, but they surely were just studio executives that didn't care because they were like, this has got to make us billions. And it did. But
I think that Disney, and this is no shot at Disney, because I definitely have my quarrels with them, but I think that they just weren't prepared for the amount of criticism that Star Wars fans bring, right? You've said many times, no one hates Star Wars more than Star Wars fans. And at the time that Disney acquired Lucasfilm, they were high on the Marvel train, right? They had just finished doing, like, they had just kind of concluded the golden age of animation. Then they were getting into like finishing up Pirates of the Caribbean, and then the huge success that like the early phases of Marvel brought.
Yeah.
I don't think that they were fully prepared for the amount of like the weight, the unbearable weight that Star Wars brings.
yeah,
They kind of were treading on thin ice from the beginning.
yeah. And I think just looking at it from the surface level, because we can't know all of the things that went into the preparation for Force Awakens, because I'm sure that had begun discussion in like 2007, right after Revenge of the Sith and the Clone Wars was being prepared for and all of that. Like if you look at it from Disney's perspective, like their choice in director with J.J. Abrams, circa probably like 2012, 2013, when they hired him to direct this movie, he was coming off of huge successes with like I guess not rebooting, but like the renewal of the Star Trek franchise, with taking a very successful space fantasy franchise,
ancient IP too,
and bringing new life to it, new fans, old fans like it, new fans like it. Like I can see why they would pick J.J. Abrams. He put R2-D2 in one of the movies.
And J.J. Abrams has done really well in the sci-fi category, not just with Star Trek, but like I think, didn't he make Super 8 or something like that?
I don't remember.
But like I know that he's made like movies like that before, and he succeeded in them fairly well.
Yeah. So like them picking him wasn't a terrible idea. It's just like I can't remember off the top of my head. If you want to look it up for me, how much he contributed to the writing, like who wrote The Force Awakens, because like everyone's biggest qualm issue with Force Awakens is probably that it's just like, this is just a recycled New Hope with just more like the way that they scatter the characters that we know and love, and like their relationships are all of a sudden like super rocky. Obviously makes sense. Marriages are rocky. Sibling relationships are rocky. Luke had to restart the Jedi Order and all of that.
Yeah.
But like,
If
we
I
don't
can
really get that
jump
much
in.
exposition. Go
It
ahead.
says that J.J. Abrams also helped. It said directed by renowned filmmaker J.J. Abrams, who also co-wrote the screenplay with Lawrence Kasdan and Michael Arndt. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah, it's like I know that last week you kind of said, maybe not like super directly, I'm trying to remember, that like lightsabers are like, that's Star Wars to you. That is like the culmination of like what Star Wars is to you because of your upbringing with the franchise, and it's just developed your love for it now. Like for me, I wouldn't say that like lightsabers are exactly what got me to like love it so much as like I felt like I could connect with like Luke a lot. Like the character development. Obviously, that's not what I thought of when I was like 5.
Obviously, my aunt and uncle weren't burned to
Yeah, but like just like the inherent character development, seeing Luke go from like scared, bratty, immature teenager to a full-fledged Jedi who speaks eloquently and like is not afraid,
hopes and
he's
believes.
not scared anymore.
Yeah.
Like he like the classic, like the faces that Mark Hamill made when he was filming A New Hope, like when Obi-Wan dies, him screaming no, that kind of face, that shocked expression, you don't see that anything like that for the rest of the franchise. That kind of his stoicism, like
He grows up.
I connected with I connected with growth.
Yeah.
In Star Wars.
Yeah.
And like there really isn't that
Mm-mm.
in
Well,
any of the sequel trilogy. Like I don't know exactly how much time truly passes between episode 7 and episode 9. I would assume no more than like a year or two.
right.
It doesn't really seem like much.
Versus the sequel trilogy, not sequel, the original trilogy is like at least like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah, it's like up to 4, I think. But yeah,
And then the prequels is like 20 almost.
I think it's like 10. Because Anakin's 9 in the first one, he's 19. And, no, he's 22. He's like 22 or something like
he's
that.
He's 8 in the first movie.
But he was 9.
He's 8. Pretty sure.
He's a minor, Padme. Well, she is too, but anyway.
She's mean. She's a queen. She's also in love with the preteen.
I don't think I've heard that one.
But this is my thing with the Force Awakens. I cannot speak.
The Force Awakens.
Widowy.
The Force of freaking Widowy.
Shut up. No. I said this in the last episode. At least I hinted at it. My biggest beef with the sequel trilogy, I love that we started on like what we liked. And
well, it's a good, we segued without even trying.
Yeah.
Because there's too much to not like.
My biggest beef with the sequel trilogy is that it just introduces too much, right? And I dropped a little bit of that when I talked about like unnecessary characters with you. But like, remember how I went off the list of all of the people, right? That was like 2/3 of the main cast, right?
Yeah.
Like there's so much set up, which is wonderful, right? Because now we have Disney Plus and we have lots of characters now that were shown a little bit on a film, right? Or on TV in a TV show. And then they got their own show that's their own storyline, right? Like Andor and Ahsoka and The Mandalorian.
Yeah.
Right? But Disney didn't run with any of that stuff. They kind of relied on books. And if I can be honest, I don't mean to offend anyone. The people who watch the Star Wars movies and are like the biggest voices out there don't care about the books, right? I love Star Wars. I've read maybe 2 Star Wars books in my entire life, right? Because it's a different medium. But what I'm trying to say is that like they brought up too much in The Force Awakens, right? Like they hint at the entire time, and this is not me hating on any of the characters or the actors, because I think that they all genuinely did a very good job. And I know that that's probably controversial in the Star Wars community because people hate the actors too. But I liked Rey and Daisy Ridley. I think that she was a great character, right?
I'm with you there.
And I loved the story of Finn, right? And I think that John Boyega was a great actor for Finn, right? He had a lot of emotional instability, like in his acting, and it really sold the character home as having like a crisis. And Oscar Isaac, he's good at anything he plays, even in X-Men, right? So they had these great characters there. And I think that they just got lost in the sauce when it comes to the storyline, right?
Well, I think the sauce lost them.
Like they hint at the entire movie that Finn is going to be the Jedi, right? And it's a perfect storyline, right? We've already seen, no offense to Rey and Daisy Ridley, we've already seen that character, right? Rey is Luke. They're the same character. They're like verbatim the same character. Granted, Luke doesn't have a weird sexual tension relationship with Darth Vader like Rey does but they're the same character, right? So naturally that doesn't hit as hard for me because I'm like, there's nothing new here, right? But
it becomes predictable.
For Finn, it's like an awesome storyline. He's had a falling out. He was a stormtrooper, decided that that's not what he wants, right? and what he's doing is bad, right? His redeeming arc is that he restarts the Jedi Order. That's awesome. That's like, had they gone that direction, I truly think that the sequel trilogy would not be terrible.
Yeah, I don't even fully know what they were thinking or like ended up doing, because like Finn is a very beloved character in Force Awakens. He's
Mhm.
like, he's very strong, like you were saying, like you can really feel the emotion. I still
you connect with him.
and like I still remember like the first trailer that they released. It just starts with just desert planet, and all of a sudden
His head pops up,
he shows up panting because something's going
and
down.
you see him in the white armor too, and you're like thinking, wait a minute.
Yeah, you would immediately think, oh, they're setting like this guy's gonna be the main character.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even remember what Rey does in the trailer at all. I do
Nothing.
not remember.
She just shows up.
Other than them running away from the people shooting at them in Jakku. Yeah, I feel like Disney just they took all of that potential
Mm-hmm.
and they crushed it.
Yeah.
To quote another Disney movie, the great Francesco Bernoulli from Cars 2, you have to get their hopes very high, and then you crush them. I'm probably misquoting that a bit. I haven't seen Cars 2 in a minute, but I
That's
remember
okay.
that quote very vividly.
That's okay.
It's stuck with me.
No, and I would agree with you. Like, I remember loving Finn, and
Speaking of Cars 2,
Finn McMissile.
British intelligence. Mater. Average intelligence.
But like, especially that last like scene between him and Kylo Ren, like that's awesome, and it is so
Dude had never
good.
held a lightsaber before.
It is so good until Rey uses the Force on it. And this is where we get to Tristan's complaints with all of the sequel trilogy. This is where it stems from, that one scene. And I may catch some flack for this, and
More fan service.
I don't mean any offense to anyone out there. Rey is a Mary Sue from the moment that she is on screen to the moment that she says that she's Rey Skywalker. She is nothing but a Mary Sue. She sits there and she just learns how to do everything perfectly with no training from anyone. Like, come on. At least Anakin went through the Jedi Order, right? Luke was trained a little bit in the first film. He doesn't ever actually use the lightsaber ever.
Well,
Right. And he gets shot a lot.
yeah.
Right.
He's bad at it because it's his first time.
The second movie, he goes and he kind of gets trained. One could say that he gets probably off camera trained a little bit by Obi-Wan Kenobi's Force Ghost, right? But he's trained by Yoda, right? And even then, he's not very in tune with the Force. And you see that when he's stuck upside down in the Wampa's lair, he holds his hand out, and it takes a good second for that lightsaber to show up.
Yeah, it takes him like more than one attempt.
Yes. Rey does everything perfectly the first time that she does it. I'm sorry. I hate it. Oh no, we're stuck at the back of this cave. I hope the First Order doesn't get us. Shout out Rey, who literally hadn't been trained at all by Luke because she just sat there bad-mouthing him the entire time and watching him drink milk from a teat. She comes in and lifts like 80 rocks. I'm gonna set
Lifting rocks.
I'm gonna set the Falcon down right here. They're gonna be the okay. It's coming together. Like,
I mean, like the only thing I can think of to maybe support that even a little bit is like it's evident when she first grabs Anakin's lightsaber that she has the same force powers that Cal Kestis does. She
the memory
yes,
stuff.
she can see and feel like the memories of previous hosts, and you know a little bit of like the future and like the trauma and emotion, all of that, simply just through touch and feel. Very rare force ability. And I mean, obviously, I don't like nowhere in like Fallen Order when Cal does that does he gain an ability to do that kind of thing. Like his disconnection from the Force and him relearning how to do previous Force abilities all come from memories and like trauma like that.
Previous training.
And like my only thought to support why Rey knows all the things. I remember when I was watching it the very first time in the theater when it came out, was seeing her with the staff. I was like, oh, this is going to set her up so that she knows how to use a lightsaber. But then when she uses the lightsaber, it doesn't resemble the way she uses the staff in any way. So it's not really a good argument.
Mm-mm.
But I remember thinking that. And I think maybe when they wrote it, when they were writing it, they're like, she already knows how to use a stick to defend herself.
Yeah. It just was. I'm sure there's people out there who love her character and just adore her. I'm not one of those. And I can't get behind the fact that she just knows how to do everything. Right. And not only does she know how to do everything, she like knows how to do everything. She can speak Wookieese. She can speak binary. She can fly a ship. She can use a lightsaber. She can use the Force.
I bypassed the... Yeah. She knows
You mean to tell
how
me,
to pilot the Millennium Falcon.
You mean to tell
and
me
engineer it.
that she knows the Falcon
Better than Han.
better than Han or even Chewie, who Han always says is the better, like always references as the better part.
He's the one who's always fixing the ship anyway.
I bypassed the hyperdrive. You can see Chewie shoot himself in the back hallway. If you pause it,
Big
you see
crossbow.
him. You see the edge of the bowcaster, and he's like, it's just dumb.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's like my biggest complaint throughout the entirety. I can go into details about each movie that I don't like, but we'll be here far too long.
Yeah. I think my biggest issue with the sequel trilogy as a whole, especially with Rise of Skywalker, because it all just is culminated in that. Like I take the line somehow Palpatine returned a lot more personally than just like, wow, that's terrible. No explanation as to how he lived. One, he survived the Death Star explosion. Two, he made it off planet
To clone himself. 3.
Like, it's my understanding that he had begun cloning himself far before that.
Mm-hmm.
Mandalorian season 1 already and season 2 already explain,
and then
they take Grogu
by proxy also
Yeah.
the Bad Batch.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to get Omega.
Yeah, all of that to be able to clone and to have a high midichlorian count.
We didn't know that watching that scene.
Mm-mm.
It makes sense now that we have explanation. Somehow Palpatine returned. Oh.
Yeah, but like I was, to continue what I was saying,
He's like a giant
I take
puppet.
that way more personally because his life, the existence of Palpatine post Return of the Jedi, takes everything from the first 6 films,
Throws it away.
crushes it. It
Absolutely.
doesn't. It throws it away and burns it, lights it on fire, and that will not return somehow.
This is a question that I would love to ask. If I ever get the opportunity to sit down with Dave Filoni, never will, but if I ever get the opportunity, I want him to walk, because I know that in this glorious Jedi archives that he's got for a brain, that he knows everything, right? I would love for him to sit down and explain to me that, because is Anakin the chosen one? Right? Because the first 6 movies would say so. The last 3 would not.
Yeah.
Right? Especially when Rey does the, and I am all of the Jedi. Ugh! Barf!
Yeah. And like, having all of the previous Force ghosts like speak to her and all of that, like, cool and all. I think I've seen like a concept for this. Someone had like made an edit of it, of like when she does that, all of the actual Force ghosts of all of the Jedi that were just speaking are literally physically
Like behind her.
helping her. That would have helped that
I've
segment
seen-
immensely.
I've
but
seen that where it's that too, but instead of Rey doing it, it's Anakin as a Force ghost finishing off Palpatine. That would have made it better.
yeah,
That would have
would
actually
have broken it even more though.
yes, but
What was the point of Ray then? But yeah,
like
it's just like it just everything that like was Anakin the chosen one, really?
right,
We are made to believe, especially just given the first 6 films, that he is.
yeah,
And that
right.
it like
well, and
it took
a
until
lot of people right now are realizing that Return of the Jedi is actually in reference to Anakin.
Yeah.
Right?
it's not about the Jedi coming back. It's
No,
about
and it's
a
not like it's not
Jedi.
yeah. And so what does it do? That's what I would like to know. What does it mean? Are the first 6 films even necessary to watch Star Wars anymore? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because what goes on in those is most definitely not the storyline in the last 3,
Yeah.
right?
And obviously, like Disney and Lucasfilm have taken an understanding as per the fan consensus around the sequel trilogy. Everything they've been putting out since has nothing to do with it.
No.
The closest you get is with The Mandalorian taking place post Return of the Jedi,
Yeah.
but like barely after.
Yeah. Yeah. Or and like Ahsoka,
Yeah,
right? With the New Republic.
but they literally go to a different galaxy.
Yeah.
That's how far away from the sequels they're going.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very interesting. And that's why when we did our Star Wars announcements, I said that I wasn't really excited for anything.
Yeah,
Right.
Which I like.
Because I don't know where you go in a new trilogy, right? I don't know what you talk about, and I don't know if I'm really that interested because the storyline that they had already threw away the rest of the Star Wars like story that we had. So what's the point? Where's the
Yeah.
draw? Does Palpatine return?
Like I
Right.
think I think the writers of the sequel trilogy just thought that the original trilogy had such like the golden formula for a Star Wars story that they felt like if they detracted too far away from it, then it was never going to work. But they stayed
Too true.
too close to it. Obviously, it's
Mhm.
still separate in a way, but like they stayed too close to it that it definitely ruined it. It
Mhm.
all like you had said earlier this episode, Disney's just been picking up the pieces.
Mhm.
In Rise of Skywalker, Rey heals a snake and heals Kylo Ren with the Force. Like, oh wow! I mean,
That
I wish
would've been-
Obi-Wan could have done that to his master,
Or that they
or
would
any of the other deaths that could have been prevented.
You know, we could have prevented we could have prevented episodes 5, 6, and 7, or 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah,
Had Anakin known how to heal people.
but hey, you know what? Grogu can do it too.
Right.
Oh, okay. Well, then it's definitely established because we like this little guy
Mm-hmm.
and we like that he can do it. And he did it in a way that felt a little bit more genuine because it was with somebody who he shouldn't trust and he did it anyway. Oh, I guess
Mhm.
Ray kind of did that with the snake
Well,
monster.
but the one with Grogu, I also don't like because
Well, yeah,
it's just a
it's-
plot hole, right? But again, Tristan needs to talk about something that he enjoyed about these things. It's
Give it to me.
very hard.
We'll cut back to the hate in 20 seconds. Go ahead.
This thing sucks. No, I would probably say what I enjoy, definitely not the choreography.
Ah,
um,
more. That's not choreography, but I had to bring it in there. I think the music's great because John Williams
There you
never
go.
misses.
thank you.
John Williams never misses.
I was
Right.
that's what I will take as mine. The music. I thoroughly enjoyed one of my favorite Star Wars themes is Rey's theme. Right? It's just a good piece.
It makes you feel like a sense of wonder.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is someone
Something's
who's
new.
like someone who needs to find their place in all this. Which
Mhm.
honestly, if they had kept that whole plot for Rey going of her just trying to find her place. Not like her place didn't need to be the epitome.
Yeah.
She just needed to find her place.
Right.
If they had kept that going, would have salvaged some.
Yeah. Right. No, and I get
Because John Williams,
back on the hate.
for those of you that I told you 20 seconds.
Sorry.
For those of you that don't fully understand how composers like really make the music for the film, they get a copy of the script too. And then they get a director who gives them notes on kind of the feeling that they're trying to go for with these particular scenes or these particular characters.
Mhm.
But like when it comes to like John Williams and the Star Wars franchise, he's kind of just given freedom in a way, because like if he knows what's going on and what this character,
If he knows how to convey
should
Star
be.
Wars,
he will do it properly.
yeah.
And he can do it in a way that makes you feel more connected.
Yeah.
Obviously, movies are nothing without the music now. Even back when they couldn't have sound, they still had music.
Mhm.
Like,
They go hand in hand.
and
Yeah.
like
If the music sucks,
if the music,
I would say like the music can't redeem a movie, but the music can kill a movie, right? Like
yeah,
I would say that almost movies stepping outside of Star Wars, if the music is what makes the movie, right? Like think of the scene from, have you ever seen 1917?
Yeah.
The scene where he runs right at the end and he runs across the battlefield.
The
Can you
one take.
imagine if they put like the Cantina band? Would have ruined the entire movie.
I don't know, man. I have that imagery in my head now, and I'm gonna make that happen.
My point is, like,
You're gonna get a
music-
video
music
sent to you in a bit.
music can kill a movie,
Yeah.
right? And I think that is what, like, you can tell when you listen to any other like Star Wars themes that are not from John Williams, right? Like, you can, I don't know if you can tell.
You can tell that they're not him.
You can tell that they're not him, but there are strong John Williams themes in every single one of them,
They have
because
to bring in the motifs.
they know that if they stray too far from that, especially in Star Wars, they'll get eaten alive.
Yeah, that's why no one listens to the music from Solo. It was too independent.
Something that I'd like, found something. I actually really like the character of Kylo Ren and Ben Solo. I think out of the entire sequel trilogy, the only character that's written well is him. Granted, he is he's got a face, Mom. The
Yeah.
entire movie, but like
So is pretty much everyone that's in the dark side.
his growth, like, and his character development throughout the entire movies, and him grappling with, like, him kind of being a reverse Anakin, right? Where he embraced the darkness so early,
You're still holding on.
right?
Let go.
Yeah, like he embraced the darkness so like early on that he has like the reverse struggles that Anakin has, right? Where he does things and you can tell, like you can see in the scenes with him that he knows that it's wrong, but he doesn't know how to get out.
I think to kind of use the like the way that it's used, poorly written plot device of Kylo and Rey being a dyad in the Force, like it kind of works that way with their own dynamics. Like I was saying, like initially, Rey is written to be as someone who's lost but trying to find their place in something they didn't even know, something much bigger that she didn't even know she was going to be a part of. Kylo knew he was going to be a part of this much bigger thing, but he went off on his own way trying to find his place, and he realized that the place he put himself was the wrong one.
Mm-hmm.
And he's fighting within himself to figure out where he really wants to be.
Mm-hmm.
And because of like Rey and their connection and their relationship, he realizes that he needs to meet her where she's at, not the opposite. Like he wants her to be.
And
You
this
see that? Make a short out of what I just said, and you have a much better film. Not to brag or to make myself feel haughty. Here, I'll just be on my high horse now. I was really proud
tried
of
to
what I
go
just
down.
said.
Didn't work. Well, to add on to that, this is where I'll get back into the hate. The Rise of Skywalker would have been
Hate leads to suffering.
The cow goes moo.
I will have a sip. Anyway, what were you saying?
No, the Rise of Skywalker could have been redeemed had they done, like in my eyes, had they done one thing, and that was have Ben Solo be the one to kill Palpatine, right? Because it would have just meant that the Skywalker family may not have been Anakin the same way that Luke kind of,
Still was, though,
right? Like,
grandfather.
right. Like, that's where I was going, is Luke kind of is hinted at also at being the chosen one a couple times.
Yeah.
And like certain dialogues between characters. But ultimately it's Anakin, right? But through Anakin's lineage is the prophecy fulfilled the same way, right?
Yeah.
I will go on the record, they got rid of the entire disappearing Houdini act, that was hot garbage. And had they made it so that like Rey and Ben fight Palpatine together, and then like somehow Rey gets overpowered in some way, and
She does technically die, right? And then Ben brings her back,
had Ben
killing himself in the process.
Had Ben been the one that kills Palpatine, that would have made it so much more redeemable in my eyes, because it
felt more fulfilled,
more
satisfying.
Right? And it would have been an awesome plot twist to the entire story. You mean to tell me the entire main character of this movie was him, right? Like, that no one would have seen it, right? The same way that not a whole lot of people were predicting that he would turn good, right?
I think that was definitely a predictable outcome.
Yes, but
there's still good in you. I feel it. I think I've heard that somewhere.
Okay, Trevor, stop putting holes in my stuff.
Well, it's okay. Disney will come out with a whole new series to fill in these holes.
That's a character that I wish they would have gone that route with. And also, the Rise of Skywalker. He's the only one left.
Yeah. I think that title, honestly, could have been better used for the second one.
Mm-hmm.
I think obviously still calling it The Last Jedi still works when talking about Luke at that time.
Mm-hmm.
But his whole character arc in Last Jedi is about him taking a break from being involved in everyone else's business because he feels like everything he touches, he destroys.
Yeah.
But in the end, he's the one who's using force powers that are unseen, but still it tracks with Luke Skywalker.
Mm-hmm.
Returns to being back in everybody's business and gets everybody out.
Yeah.
Sacrificing himself in the process.
That's just the only thing that I think that had they done differently, that it could have in my eyes, it would have made the somehow a Palpatine return not be such a terrible thing.
If
right?
Ben was the
if
one
Ben
to
was the one to
fulfill
do
prophecy,
it, right? If the Skywalker family were to finally finish off Palpatine once and for all, then somehow Palpatine returned. Okay, it makes sense.
And then it would have made the one line in Attack of the Clones when Yoda says, "Perhaps misread the prophecy was," or something like that.
Yeah.
Would have because at that point it just wow, Yoda, hater, much?
Right.
What?
Right.
It would have made that feel a little bit more fulfilled too.
Yeah. It would have just been it just would have brought it back together.
I know people have asked for this a bunch, like a Star Wars version of a What If series.
Mm-hmm. I think that it's needed.
I would like it, but with the way that Disney did What If, I don't know if it should be done.
I don't know. Peggy Carter could really do some damage.
I know. I think Captain Carter could have killed Palpatine on her own.
After she became the
You need a
Watcher,
British brunette to do it.
Kind of already had that.
With Keira Knightley?
I was going to say with Rey.
I know, that's what I was That's why I was saying you needed a British brunette.
Oh, okay. Sorry, my bad. No, and I love the character of Kylo Ren. He's honestly, he's one of my favorite characters.
I think,
despite the teenage angst, like he's pretty cool. He's arguably got the coolest lightsaber in all of Star Wars. Right?
yeah, that's like the one part of his character that like it really like we were saying earlier, it really just shows him trying to just get it out, be
Who he
what-
wants to be.
like just like being in his feelings. Like he
Mhm.
really is emo
Mm-hmm.
because he's just conflicted.
Mm-hmm.
And so he gets it out by bleeding a kyber crystal, and it is so powerful that it needs vents on the sides
Because
to
he
get
cracks
all the
it.
power.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like he needs to wear a mask because
Insecurities.
insecurity, and he's inspired by his grandfather as Darth Vader. Maybe his parents, because they had such an interesting relationship and they probably weren't all too involved in his upbringing. They probably didn't fully say, like, hey, your grandpa, great guy, bad things, great guy again, thanks
Well-
to your uncle.
Well, I was gonna say, and you also, I think it's interesting. I think it's important to realize where he comes from because Leia and Han did not see the redemption of Vader, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you think about it, Luke says, "I knew there was good in him," and Leia, you can kind of see in her face, she's like, "Sure, that's why we're burning him on the pyre," right? Like, they probably taught Ben the bad things, right? Don't be like this because this is what he was like,
Yeah.
right? Versus if Luke were to teach him, that's why Luke is like, there's always good in some people, but sometimes it's really bad when the bad comes out, right? You can see where Kylo Ren kind of like from his parents gets that like angst, right? Because Han Solo really just is thrown in the middle of things, right?
Yeah.
And he has every reason to hate the Empire. And so it would make sense why they would pass that along to their kid. And that's why he idolizes Vader, because he's probably not being heard. He's probably not being seen. But you want to know who was heard and seen? My grandpa, Darth Vader, right?
He made his presence known.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be seen. I want to be known.
Yeah. But that's genuinely all I've got. I don't really like the sequel trilogy. I don't know
Yeah.
if that was apparent. I hate it. But there are some
You
good
are a
things.
parent.
I am a parent. Whap, whap, whap.
Yeah.
No. So we do have one more week of May. So we will continue to talk about Star Wars. However, I do want to take this time to just say we've been thoroughly enjoying making these episodes for you guys. And even if you don't listen to them, we still enjoy it.
If you don't listen to him, then I don't know how you're getting this information.
But if you have made it this far into the video, all we ask is that you share it and you just comment and interact with us. And just kind of get the podcast out there because we enjoy it and we have fun doing this. And it's not to quote PBS, but this is all thanks to like the people who are supporting
Viewers
us
like you.
behind the scenes. So just, help if you enjoy it, help the podcast grow, because that means that we get to connect with other people who get to sit here for an hour and listen to me and Trevor spiral about things that aren't important.
Yep. Well, I've got nothing more to say. If you like the sequel trilogy, and if you're one of the people that agree with the critics that The Last Jedi was actually a really good movie, you are entitled to your opinion. But like I say to everyone who is entitled to their own opinion, your opinion's just wrong.
Yeah,